Meet Franz. He is running late for school, and more importantly, he hasn't prepared his lesson on participles. He knows he's in for a scolding, so he considers skipping class entirely. To a young boy, the open air and the sight of Prussian soldiers drilling in the distance are much more inviting than a classroom. This is the premise of The Last Lesson, a short story by Alphonse Daudet that explores the moment a community realizes its heritage is no longer its own. On his way to school, Franz passes the town hall. There's a crowd gathered around the bulletin board, the place where every piece of bad news for the last 2 years has been posted. He doesn't stop to read it, but he can feel the tension in the air. When he finally arrives at the schoolhouse, the usual morning roar is gone. There's no sound of desks slamming or students chanting lessons in unison. The entire building is completely, unsettlingly still. Inside, his teacher, M. Hamel, isn't angry about the lateness. He is wearing his best embroidered silk cap and his fine frilled shirt, clothes he usually saves for inspection days or prize ceremonies. Even more strange are the backbenches. They are usually empty, but today, the village elders are sitting there in silence. These small, physical deviations from the norm signal that the world Franz knew has broken. The morning silence and the presence of the town's adults suggest that a monumental shift occurred while the town slept. M. Hamel stands before the class and delivers the news. An order has arrived from Berlin. Starting tomorrow, schools in this region will only teach German. This is the very last time they will be permitted to study their own language. This map shows Alsace and Lorraine. France has ceded these border territories to Prussia, pulling these communities into a new empire. This shift isn't just lines on a map. M. Hamel has taught here 40 years. Tomorrow he leaves, replaced by a foreign curriculum. Franz looks at his grammar textbooks, the same ones he considered a heavy nuisance just an hour ago, and finds they have suddenly become old friends he is not ready to lose. The realization that he can no longer learn his own history makes every word feel vital. This classroom policy is a tactical move. By mandating a foreign language, the state ensures that the cultural heritage of the next generation begins to fade. True control is achieved when a population is forced to speak the language of its occupiers. The village elders in the back of the room are there because they feel a collective weight of regret. They realize too late that they prioritized farm work and wages over their children's education, often keeping them home when they should have been in these very seats. M. Hamel takes his share of the blame as well. He admits to the class that he would often give students a holiday just so he could go trout fishing or have them water his garden instead of teaching them their lessons. He spends the final hour speaking about the French language itself. He describes it as a tool of logic and clarity, urging the villagers to never let go of it, even when the new laws take effect. He is describing how a language functions as a barrier against assimilation. When an external power applies pressure to a group's identity, a shared language acts as a structural defense, keeping the core of that community's heritage from collapsing. M. Hamel argues that for a people under occupation, holding on to their language is what prevents their identity from being erased. It is the one thing their captors cannot fully take away, as long as it is spoken. The final hour is the most intense of Franz's life. He listens with a focus he never knew he possessed. And M. Hamel teaches with the desperation of a man trying to impart 40 years of knowledge in a single sitting. The lesson ends not with a word, but with a sound. The church clock strikes 12, marking the exact moment the new regime's orders take effect. At the same time, the trumpets of the Prussian soldiers are heard outside the window. They are returning from their drills, signaling that the occupation is no longer a news report. It is a physical presence in the schoolyard. M. Hamel stands up to speak, but he is choked with emotion. He can't get the words out. Instead of speaking, he turns to the blackboard, picks up a piece of chalk, and bears down with all his strength. He writes 3 words as large as he can. Vive la France. Long live France. Without a word, he leans his head against the wall and signals with his hand that they are dismissed. Franz leaves that room a different person. In a few hours, he was transformed from a boy who viewed school as a chore into a witness of his own culture being silenced. The story shows how the value of a language or a history is often recognized only at the moment of its loss. It transforms a child's forgotten lesson into a permanent record of what happens when a voice is stripped away.